when people hear deep tech, it sounds like a high barrier to entry for some people, right? Like it sounds daunting, like, oh, it's a alien thing. Am I good enough to join? And I get that, from some of the students that I've spoken to. To be very honest, I personally am not tech trained. But I would say that, from my interactions with so many of them, it is something that can be learned, on your own. And of course, you will need to work on projects to sharpen your skills on those, right? And through projects, you can do it through side projects, or you need an opportunity, right, with a company, for example, who is willing to let you work on a problem statement, a real problem statement, right? And I think the onus is always on the person to find those opportunities.
Hi everyone, this is the Peking University HSBC Business School Entrepreneurship Society. Today we are speaking with Shuen Lim, Talent Manager at SGInnovate. So Ms. Lim, may I ask you to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thanks so much for having me, Nicholas. So my background is 5 years, in talent recruitment. And I started out in an agency setup, and then I moved into a HR consulting space. And now what I'm doing, it's more focused on students and fresh graduates running internship programs, both local and international.
I see. Thank you for the introduction. So, I mean, I'm always glad to hear that you're working with students. So, I see that you work with deep tech startups. So, may I ask, why do deep tech startups need campus recruitment?
Yeah, I think this is a very common question that a lot of people are asking nowadays. We generally, not just in Singapore, but even globally, recently I've been to the US, and mainly in New York and Boston. And, even like with such an established um, tech scene, right? They are also facing, this talent shortage in that sense, lah, right? Everyone is trying to build and ramp up their capabilities towards building talent pipeline in this area. And I don't think it's just primarily for campus recruitment. Definitely, it's important to get our young talents up to speed. But I think, just within the even mid-career, right, switchers or even experienced hires themselves, a lot of people are actually transiting into this at mid-career, right? And that's why now, like just in Singapore, you see a lot of programs that are doing changes, in terms of upscaling and rescaling um, programs in tech areas and different tech areas, in robotics, in software development. Actually, a lot, I would say, of this tech skills can be learned online, and I learned this from my students themselves, right? Because when I ask them, like, I don't think your course, let's say they study finance or social sciences, they don't study this, right? But then, they're still able to get into the tech programs that we run. And when I hear from them, a lot of them actually go online and really do their own sourcing through Coursera, YouTube, self side projects and all. So I think it's important to continuously build the pipeline, and young talents are definitely an important pipeline for that, lah, right? Up and coming, coming, yeah. So that's why I would say a lot of big companies I know now are also focusing on campus recruitment. I wouldn't say it's a new thing, right? Because all along there has been campus recruitment going on. But particularly for tech talent, I would say that it's for me, it's just been what I've been in for the last 2 years. I haven't had like decades of experience in tech, so I can't say that for sure. But just within campus recruitment in tech itself, there is a lot of need that we see, because we work with various types of deep tech startups, and we're trying to see how we can give them an advantage or level playing field, right? Because as a fresh graduate, come on, you go to bigger schools, bigger companies, sorry, reputation, money, it's all there. How do we build the deep tech ecosystem in Singapore such that you think of deep tech, you think of startups, and then you think of SGInnovate? So that's what we're aiming to do.
I see. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. So, just a follow-up question. So, you mentioned that students, they bring like sort of promise and potential. So may I ask, like, and just now you also mentioned that students also they learn skills online. So my question is, may I know for fresh graduates, what are the most important skills that they can bring to these deep tech startups, and how can they learn that before joining the deep tech startup?
Yeah, I think when people hear deep tech, it sounds like a high barrier to entry for some people, right? Like it sounds daunting, like, oh, it's a alien thing. Am I good enough to join? And I get that, from some of the students that I've spoken to. To be very honest, I personally am not tech trained. But I would say that, from my interactions with so many of them, it is something that can be learned, on your own. And of course, you will need to work on projects to sharpen your skills on those, right? And through projects, you can do it through side projects, or you need an opportunity, right, with a company, for example, who is willing to let you work on a problem statement, a real problem statement, right? And I think the onus is always on the person to find those opportunities. Actually, a lot of these startups, I would say, provide the opportunity for students to come in. Of course, as a startup, it's a small company, there are limited resources, there definitely will be training provided. They don't expect the person to come in 100%. But at the same time, the program that we run requires the person to already be equipped with certain level, basic level, of skill set. And that's why it's a competitive program. It's called the Summation Programme. If you want more information, I can share more with you, definitely. But this is not everything about that. Yeah, so I would say that don't put yourself down just because you think it's a high barrier to entry and things like that. There are a lot of support in the ecosystem, right? Just for new beginners who want to join, who are interested and you don't know how to start. There's a lot of community support in that sense on LinkedIn, groups, that you can sort out. Yeah, so people are with you, in that sense.
I see. Thank you. But another last follow-up question. May I ask, can you think of any examples of exceptional fresh grads that have been able to contribute to deep tech startups?
Yeah. So I mean, we've been running the Summation Programme for a while now, for coming 5 years. And I would say that some of the highlights that I've seen, are that, okay, so a lot of people join the program because, and it's not just program, right, but what a startup can offer is that, you get to see the end-to-end journey, right? You get to see where the product starts, and then you see it being implemented to the client side. So it's not just, let's say, for example, not all big companies are like that, but, if let's say you work on a piece of work, and then you do some research on it, and then in the end it just gets archived, for example, and then maybe the research just never sees the light of day. Who knows? Like I have no idea. But that's just experiences. I mean, I've been in internships before myself, right? And to find something that really gives me work that makes an impact to the real business is not that easy, right? You have to find a way through the system. You have to be confident about what about asking for the role and things like that. And that's what we are hoping to do, in the program, to provide that value, so that people come in, find it rewarding, and fulfilling. Yeah.
I see. All right. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. So that's all the questions I have. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. No problem.